Hello everyone and welcome back to Fear Factor, the show where we rank your favourite horror movies and games on a fear scale to determine how effectively they scare us. I'm your host Luke and today we're reviewing the 2000 sequel of the Scream films, Scream 3. This is arguably one of the weakest movies of the franchise and is a big step down from the previous two. This could be due to it being written by a different writer than the previous two movies, Kevin Williamson, who was busy with other projects at the time, which is a shame because Williamson's original draft for Scream 3 sounded really promising, with Stu Macher set to return. But Ehren Kruger was hired instead, who had other plans for the movie. But does it top the previous two films' fear factor? I think we already know the answer to this, so roll the titles. The movie takes place 3 years after the events of Scream 2, with Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell, living in isolation. However, a new Ghostface killer emerges which forces Sidney to come out of hiding, but this time round Ghostface has this extremely unrealistic device which can duplicate people's voices perfectly in real time, tricking them into believing they are someone else so he can lure them somewhere to kill them.
It was a simple game, Cotton. You should have told me where Sidney was. Now, you lose.
Which really takes you out of the movie every time it is used. Courtney Cox and David Arquette also return for this movie, and the film also introduces new characters such as Jennifer Jolie, a fan favourite who plays Gale Weathers in the Stab films, played by Parker Posey, and Roman Bridger, director of the Stab films and less of a fan favourite, played by Scott Foley. One of the very few strengths of Scream 3 is its ability to poke fun at the horror genre and itself. The movie is filled with self-aware jokes and references and seems to be this movie's main focus, making it feel more like a comedy than an actual horror, whereas the previous two movies managed to balance the two perfectly. One prime example of these meta jokes include a cameo from Carrie Fisher, who plays an actor called Bianca Burnett, who looks like Carrie Fisher. I wonder why, who then goes on to say she nearly got the role of Princess Leia but lost it to Carrie Fisher, which whilst this is a funny joke, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when you think about it. But Carrie Fisher's commitment to the role by slating herself definitely made it work. The constant self-referential humour really proved to be a distraction, taking away from the tension and scares throughout the film. The gore in Scream 3 is one of the weakest of the franchise, with most of the kills lacking any creativity. I can't even name one kill in this film that even remotely makes me feel squeamish, which for a slasher movie is extremely disappointing. The funny thing is that the most memorable kill in this movie wasn't even one dealt directly from the killer. It was by some dumbass who couldn't even smell the house filled with gas, who then lit a flame and blew himself up into smithereens. I'm sorry, but the build up to this death is so dumb to me as it just is so unrealistic. I mean, fax machines! The reveal of the killer's identity is not as satisfying as in previous films, with the motive feeling forced and the reveal of Roman Bridger being the killer, despite Gale checking his pulse when he faked his death, was very underwhelming, and his true identity being Sidney's long lost brother didn't even have much of an impact. Angelina Tyler, the actress who plays Sidney in the Stab movie, played by Emily Mortimer, was originally meant to be the other killer, but this idea was later scrapped and she was just left to be a suspect, making Roman the only Ghostface to do it all on his own so far. The film went through so many rewrites, with some changes being made while scenes were being shot, which I do believe is one of the main reasons why this film ended up the way it did. So on our fear scale of 10, where does Scream 3 rank? Scream 3 was a big step down from the previous two installments. Scream 3 is one of the least scary of the Scream films, and one of the scariest things about this whole movie is how many flaws it has. The scares are few and far between, and the kills were very lackluster despite there being the same amount there was in Scream 2. They were just pretty boring and very uncreative. Furthermore, the overuse of meta jokes and the stupidly far-fetched voice changing device really takes the audience out of the movie, which makes it difficult to create suspense and scares. But I will say something good about this movie: the characters are still likeable and the performances are solid. Because of that, I'm giving Scream 3 a measly 2 out of 10 on our fear scale, the lowest in the series so far. Thanks for watching this episode of Fear Factor. I really wish this video could have been longer, but there really just wasn't a whole lot to say about this movie. Be sure to tune in next time as we review and critique more horror movies and games to determine just how scared they make us. And remember, if you hear a tapping at your window, it's probably just a tree branch. Or is it?